Hello and welcome back to the Hoof Football Podcast. And this week we've started the recording on a Sunday. It's going to come out on a Monday, so you'll be hearing it on the Monday. And it's all about the Carabao Cup final. And it was 2-0 to Manchester City. Obviously, 2 goals from Nico O'Reilly, who's just got in the England squad, the provisional 35-man squad this week. So it's a big week for him. He scored in the 60th and 64th minute as Arsenal fans basically dried their tears away and lost yet another final. And I'm joined by Josh and Charlie. So, boys, how's your week's been so far? And obviously, how are you enjoying all this football this week? A lot's happened. Chelsea getting sanctioned, Burnley losing again. So we'll start with you, Josh.
I'm not even surprised about Burnley anymore, Lewis. I won't lie to you. I just want the season to be done, just get it over and done with. But it's nice to see other teams having a bit of a shit time as well. I won't lie to you.
Exactly. To be fair, I've just hit a swipe at you there, but then Chelsea lost 3-0. So we also got pummeled 10-2 on aggregate in the Champions League. So It's not been a great week for me. Yeah, I can't really speak. And then obviously Liverpool lost. Villa finally won. But Charlie, how are Hull doing at the moment?
They're doing all right. They last week they lost to West Brom, which was a shocking loss. But recently we did beat Sheffield Wednesday. It's not something I can really brag about though, considering that they're already relegated. I can't just go, Chelsea lost to Everton. Meanwhile, Hull have beaten Sheffield Wednesday. You can't really.
They've only got 12 players.
Yeah, but one thing I will say though is that I think Tottenham losing to Forest as well today. Poor performance there. I think probably have just a bigger chance of getting relegated, to be fair, as maybe West Ham do now.
Yeah, I was going to say the only good thing for Spurs fans, other than just being a Spurs fan, was a pretty bad thing, but I think it was the fact that obviously West Ham lost. I think Ben's actually, to be fair, avoiding the heat at the moment because Middlesbrough, from what I've seen, they're really dropping off.
Yeah, really
Drew, was it 0-0?
It's 0-0 against Blackburn, yeah.
Yeah, Coventry have pulled away a little bit, and then I think Ipswich have got a game in hand, so he might be squeaky bum time for him, if I'm honest. But we'll get back to the Carabao Cup final, and I want to start by just saying what both of you felt was the main issue for Arsenal, because from what I saw, they started the first 20 minutes kind of on top, I'd say. They had the big Havertz chance, which obviously James Trafford, who came in with the rotations of the keepers, made a big save early on. And then they just seemed a different team in the second half. I think they just almost fell off, let City get into the game. And yeah, they kind of just couldn't compete in that second half. I don't know, do you want to start, Charlie, with kind of what your main takeaways kind of from the Arsenal point of view were from the game?
Yeah, from the build up to the game, everyone was kind of questioning why Kepa is starting, and again, I was the same. And you saw, especially the first goal. It was Kepa's fault that if he just had caught it, or even if he had still managed to have punched it away, that goal would have been prevented. I think it's tough to say because the Arsenal's lineup was more or less just in general how they would start most of their matches, apart from, again, just rotating the keeper. I think, obviously, they did start Ben White, which I kind of was expecting, kind of wasn't, because, again, I guess the same with the City squad, you're going to rotate your players. You don't want to, especially from, the Champions League game, where they lost to Madrid, it was one of them where they're going to want to bounce back, and especially try and beat Arsenal, not just, of course, for the League Cup, but maybe put a sense of pressure on them when it does come to the Premier League. I just think there was some players that didn't perform as well as they could have. I know we keep saying Gyökeres is always underperforms, but I think he had maybe one chance, I think. Even if that, there wasn't really much from him in the game. I just think overall, like you said before, Arsenal had a good first 20, 25 minutes. The first half wasn't too bad. It was the second half which really let them down. And yeah, I can't really say anything else.
From what I saw of the game, I think Hincapié really struggled against Semenyo. I think Semenyo looked really good. And obviously, eventually, there was talks he was going to get subbed off at half time, and then eventually Calafiori came in for him in the second half. One of the interesting things that I think you mentioned there, which I'll ask you, Josh, is a lot of kind of the headlines were around the goalkeeper rotation and the fact that they've stuck both of them with their secondary keepers. And obviously, James Trafford from Burnley in terms of that incredible season he had last year. Do you think that Arsenal will be looking at this going, we shouldn't have played Kepa because his mistakes were kind of big in this game, and he's got a history in the kind of the cup with obviously the Sarri thing back in the day. He also missed a penalty against Liverpool. What are your thoughts in terms of rotating the keepers? Would you keep your main keeper for that final, Josh?
I don't know. Obviously, it could be a thing of behind the scenes, especially if he said you're going to be the cup goalkeeper, and then it went back and caused a big issue behind the scenes of if he swapped him out and go, well, hang on, you told me I'm cup goalkeeper, and now we're final, I'm getting dropped. But also, Arsenal in a cup final against, let's be honest, not the best City team we've seen for a long time, really. The chance was there to kind of have him for the taking. A bit naive, really, from Arteta and Arsenal to make the changes that we did. Like, obviously, Ben White, he's not played a lot of football this year. But I feel, especially when City were for the taking a little bit this year, it's one of them. We should have probably put the best side out we possibly could. Obviously, we're a few points clear in the league, so we can maybe have the time to switch it about in the league. Obviously, we've got a 3-week break now, really. Is it something like that? 2-week break?
Yeah, something stupid. Yeah,
it's not like we've got to keep players to like rest them, or because we've got Premier League midweek or Champions League. So I thought it was a really naive team selection from Arteta, really, of when I City aren't my best and Murphy taking, and he's picked the player values over something, over like trying to get the win, really, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the big things I kind of felt in the game, which I wanted to ask you both, was there was something during the game which was Ryan Shirky started showboating a little bit. He did some keepy uppies, and Pep Guardiola was kind of shaking his head at it. And then the commentators were obviously saying that I think it was the late 60th minute. And I think the commentators were basically saying, it's a little bit too soon to be doing that. Is that showing a little bit too much arrogance? And I wanted to ask you, Charlie, as well as Josh afterwards, like, do you think there's nothing wrong with that harmless and a little bit of showboating in that moment, or do you think it's a bit naive from him and it is a little bit of arrogance there where Pep Guardiola's right to kind of be angry at him?
I think in that period of the match, like if it happened, let's say obviously like near the 90th minute where they're going to try and take it towards the corner and then obviously he starts messing around with the ball. In some case, I think, yeah, all right, fair enough. Like, if you're still 2-0 up and you're keeping your lead, and I wouldn't really be too much against it. I was a bit kind of confused as to why, and you could probably say, yeah, arrogance. Pep's got a reason to be kind of annoyed, showboating, especially when, well, I know karma could be a thing sometimes in football, and it's one of them things where showboating too soon to then end up maybe getting caught on the receiving end of a comeback. But I've not really got much of an opinion on it. I just think it was just a bit early to showboat in the match, especially in a cup final, because, yeah, as I said before, karma could literally hit and you could be on the receiving end of a cup loss, or because you were just showboating too soon in the match.
Yeah, I think we've all probably done that early scream where you've ran playing FIFA and you celebrate too soon, and then someone comes and I do it against Ben all the time. I'll run across the living room screaming in space, and then he scores a 90th minute equaliser or winner against me, and I'm like, oh shit, gone too soon there. Josh, what do you think in terms of looking forward now from this game? Do you think that it's going to build some fire up in Arsenal, that they want to get that revenge in the sense of get the job done with the title now? Do you think it's going to kind of like give them that inspiration to kick on? Or do you think that it's actually going to make them wobble a little bit and this is the start of them kind of falling off a little bit, where this was a big statement and they'd missed the chance to kind of down City even more?
I think it was both, really. Obviously, when you get beat the way we did, really, against your league, like your main rivals for the title, that is going to play on the mind a lot, especially when we've still got City to play again. That will play on the mind, obviously. That could fire them up. It's like, right, as you said, get the job done now. We're going to kill teams off early and get the job done. But also, it's a very fine line. It could go the other way of we try and go for a game too much and we get caught, and a bit like how we've seen Arsenal in the past of where we have slipped up a little bit. Obviously, when we think, oh, we're playing a team maybe lower down, and because we're fired up to get the win and get it done, it could easily come back to bite them. So it's a very fine line between fired up and finishing the game and getting the points, or trying to go for a game too much and it coming back to bite you.
Yeah, I think it's one of them where Arsenal have always been they've always been seen as they've not had the bottle when it comes down to them big moments and the big kind of statements. And I think it's just going to increase their nerves now. And there's going to be this awkward atmosphere around even the fan base. You're going to sense that in the stadiums. And I think winning this cup, obviously not winning a trophy in so long, would have been something that would have boosted the morale. It would have created so much more confidence. And now they go into the next couple of league games. They've got obviously the international break. I think there's going to be a little bit more angst and a little bit more kind of worry amongst the fans that's going to be sensed now down onto the pitch. Do we think in general it was a good game? I'm going to ask you, Charlie. Do you think it was a good cup final? Or I felt it was very tactical. I felt it was very kind of not much happening, not many chances created. And I felt that was shown in kind of it not being boring, but it was very fine margins, which made it something very tactical. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I think it was one of them where I feel like this sort of happens now in a lot of cup finals where teams often just try and play, I guess, safe football. It's very rare they want to try and take risks because they know that maybe there's a potential they can get, it can backfire and a team could go on a counter-attack if they do try and bring loads of men forward to try and score and break the deadlock, and it could just, as I said before, backfire and they're on the receiving end of the deadlock being broken, which is obviously key. I think the first goal is always key nowadays in a cup final. I think that's what really gives teams confidence to kind of keep pushing, keep going once they've taken the lead, and just sort of, I don't know, just try and not exactly park the bus, but just be more defensively aware. And this game particularly, I mean, looking at the chances, there were a few obviously close opportunities. I know, especially in the second half, even though Arsenal didn't really show as much attacking promise as they did in the first half, there still was a couple of chances. I think Calafiori was not far from scoring. I think if Trossard had obviously stuck his foot out just slightly more, there was likely that the ball was going in. I think, was it Saliba that hit the crossbar with his header, or Gabriel? I can't remember.
I think it was one of the two. I can't remember actually.
Yeah, it was one of the centre halves anyway. But apart from that, there wasn't really anything else that Arsenal did to kind of pressure City and perhaps give some sort of hope that there was going to be a comeback. I just think nowadays cup finals, when you watch them, they're just so many teams just play, as I said before, safe football. They don't want to take risks. They just try and kind of, as you said, tactical football, try and stick to the tactics and just hope that it allows them to take the lead, and that point where they can just sort of hold back, be a lot more defensively aware, and just not take any risks to the point where they're going to end up conceding a goal, for instance. But yeah, I think compared to other cup finals, wasn't the most entertaining or fan friendly, I would say.
Obviously, you'd say that, Charlie, with the famous Hull City Arsenal game in the final that time. Obviously, the FA Cup, but what a final that was. Do you know what I mean? For Hull City fans, you don't get that chance very often to go to Wembley, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah. This is the thing, especially like Arsenal, they haven't won a cup in a while. You want to try and make the most of it. You're going to have to take some risks in order to try and, give some sort of hope that your team are going to at least win the cup. And I mean, obviously, Hull did that when they were 2-0 up, and it clearly backfired. But we don't have to talk about that horrendous flashback. But as I said before, it's just all very safe now compared to back in the day where it was all kind of the teams were actually trying to score and trying to essentially win the game by scoring as much as they can. Now it's just take the lead, sit back, and just keep a clean sheet, basically.
Yeah, and obviously Nico O'Reilly was kind of pivotal in this game. It was the turning point when he scored in the 60th minute, Josh. Do you think that he is increasing his kind of status in terms of going into this World Cup potential squad? And you've got the likes of James Garner, who's just been called up. Where do you think, how do you think this has helped in terms of his kind of chances at going to that World Cup and obviously making a name for himself, but also what kind of a season do you think he's having? Because I think he's been used in many different positions, obviously left back and midfield, but do you think he's got a good chance of going to America in the summer?
Yeah, for me, he goes as second choice behind Lewis Hall. I think Lewis Hall has shown enough to put his like stamp on that left back position, really.
Yeah.
And because obviously Lewis Hall's played left back every single game. There's none. Oh well, this game we're going to play this position, then here, then here, then here. But obviously Nico O'Reilly, who has shown his flexibility this season, especially even maybe last season when he kind of played all over the place again. But he has made a really good shout for himself to push Lewis Hall for that left back spot. When, especially finals, as we've said today, it was a very tactical final. If a player so young can kind of grab the game by its horns and grab himself 2 goals and play really well anyway and lock down that left his side really. I think it does him a world of good. Of course, there will be a lot of pressure on him today with obviously being one of his first cup finals. Well, like first cup final when he's been starting really. So probably a lot of pressure on him of, well, is he going to be able to perform now? It's one game and it's done, or will he kind of bottle it a little bit? But to be fair to him, he didn't just held his own. He one of the best players on the pitch for me.
No, definitely. I think if I had to give that kind of best performance, I think he obviously got the man of the match, and it was almost the headline that he was the local lad from Manchester himself, and that was kind of the narrative that was shown after the game. I think Semenyo had a very good game. I think that some of the deliveries that he was bringing in and the crosses was very good. One of the questions, because it's kind of what you said earlier, Josh, that you touched on about, you said this isn't City's best team, and it kind of made me think, do you think that this team is probably the worst team that Pep Guardiola has inherited or had as the Man City boss? Obviously, they've just won a trophy. There's been a lot of pressure with Pep Guardiola recently about his need to keep winning trophies and that he's not kind of succeeded in the Champions League again. Do we think that this is probably, as part of this rebuild, his worst team right now, and yet they've still won, obviously, the EFL Cup? We'll start with you, Charlie.
Definitely isn't his best team. I can definitely agree with Josh on that one. It's a funny one, really, because, I mean, again, you look at the squad that they do have, and it's clearly, well, maybe just behind Arsenal, it's the best in the league. But compared to the players that we've seen previously at City, again, Kevin De Bruyne, literally the best playmaker that arguably the Premier League has ever witnessed. And for him not to be in the City squad, it's kind of like, well, compared to previous seasons, City, I think, really, you kind of do have to base it off of how City have maybe won the league and the trophies they've won previously in the same season. This season, they've struggled in the Premier League. I mean, they're 9 points behind Arsenal despite having a game in hand still. They've just been knocked out of the Champions League. And again, I look at some of the players that maybe don't get credited now as they used to do. I think Ruben Diaz isn't someone that's maybe seen as like a big hierarchy centre-half compared to maybe how he was like a couple of seasons ago. Again, you had, like, if we compare fullbacks, Matthias Nunes, if you compared him to like prime Kyle Walker, obviously Walker, Burnley, maybe not the same as he was at City, but nonetheless, you know, you just saw Kyle Walker as someone who was just the perfect right back because he was so solid. He had the perfect strength, perfect attributes, abilities for a right back. Compared to Nunes, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was a winger before, was Matthias Nunes, before he kind of had that full-back role. Yeah,
central midfielder, yeah.
Yeah, central midfield, yeah. So it's kind of one of them where there's some players where they kind of do switch the positions on an occasion for City, kind of move around a bit just to make the squad a bit more better, especially when it comes to rotation. But
to be fair, though, I think from what I saw, I was actually quite surprised just the personnel that they had on the bench in terms of the depth that they had. Because when I looked, you've got like Marmoush wasn't involved, Savinho wasn't involved, Foden only came on literally in the 90th minute. Like, they've got depth. Like, Gahey only didn't play because he wasn't kind of eligible because he'd been signed too late. Obviously, you said Ruben Diaz, who was injured, and yet they still had quite a strong 11. So I'd say probably their depth is still very strong. It's just that maybe, like you said, the former individuals that they had, that individual quality, isn't possibly the same in terms of a De Bruyne, kind of a Gundogan when he was at his kind of best.
Yeah.
What do you think, kind of as a final kind of question for both of you, what do you think this means for the title race? Just as like a little kind of maybe a snapshot now, kind of quickly. What do you think it means? Are you going to see Arsenal going all the way? Are you going to see Arsenal dwindle? Or do you think that it is basically Arsenal's to lose now and that they should get it over the line in terms of the title? You could start, Josh, obviously.
I don't know. But obviously pressure is a lot more on Arsenal now. Obviously losing to title rivals. Like mentally, that'll be a big thing for players. And it's not like, obviously we played Sunday, Wednesday we've got Premier League again and we can just switch back. We've got a 2-week break, possibly 3. I don't know how the schedule works, but it's not like we can fix the wrong straight away. A few players who've not been away of the country are going to be obviously trading, dwelling on it a little bit. So I feel like the pressure mounts on Arsenal even more now. It'll fire City up as well. We've got that first cup this year. Let's go and get a second. Let's go and get a third. It's one of them of City. I don't want to say starting to tick because obviously it's not like we're a bad side, but I feel like we're going to want it more now because we've got the first title against Arsenal. So as I say, it depends how Arsenal react. It might fire them up, but then we might dwell on it too much, and it's going to hold them back. So it depends on that first weekend back in the Premier League on which Arsenal show up and possibly even which City turn up. Really.
Yeah. To be fair, like you say, it's more, can Arsenal kind of get it across the line? I don't think with the points gap, and it's only 9 points. I don't know. What do you think, Charlie? Because to me, it seems like they can't pick up now that 9 points, Man City. But then I've just thought it's not actually, when you think about it, it's not that big a difference. But what do you think is that final kind of takeaway from the game and looking forward?
I think if City win the game in hand and they go on to beat Arsenal in the upcoming fixture some point in April, then that's when Arsenal should be worried. I think it really all comes down to that match, in my opinion. I think Arsenal's run in the last 3 games, they're all teams who are kind of, I think it's from Crystal Palace below. I can't remember exactly who they play, but it's definitely teams near the relegation zone. The one thing I'll say for Arsenal is that because City have been knocked out of the Champions League and Arsenal still in the competition, they're probably going to have to rotate the squad a bit more because City are going to have the advantage when it comes to fitness for their upcoming games because I think all they have is the FA Cup really, and that's it apart from the league. So really, I know Arsenal will be key on trying to get far into the Champions League as possible, but when you've had such a constant battle with City on trying to win the Premier League, the 9-point gap, although it may seem far, all City have to do is win that game in hand, win against Arsenal, and the pressure's really on for them. So I think it's still, for me personally, I think Arsenal shouldn't have too much to worry about. Of course, as Josh said, there is going to be a bit of that pressure because they did lose in the cup final. But really, there's nothing to worry about until they do play City. And by then, if they do lose, then it's going to really be in their heads that they have to just switch on. And maybe if it's the fact that Champions League, then they're going to have to put on some of their second choice players, and so be it, just so they can win the league.
Yeah. To be fair, I think that this game today is a good comparison to basically the season ahead because Arsenal basically let City into this game with a poor display in the second half, and it's very much the same. I feel like with the title race, if Arsenal start slipping and they give that confidence to City and they let kind of it get down to when they play City later, as we've said, I think it's April when they play City. If by that point Arsenal have given it to them, it really is in Arsenal's hands. But kind of as a final takeaway of just the stats, I think Arteta, he broke his record where he'd not lost at Wembley yet. So I think he'd won 8 at Wembley, 4 as a player, 4 as a manager. And obviously he's finally now lost. And Pep Guardiola won his 5th, I think it's 5 they've won, 5th EFL Cup trophy with Manchester City. So that's kind of a snapshot, a takeaway from the reaction of the EFL Cup final. And now it's time for the quiz. Hello and welcome back to the Hoof Football Podcast. And now it's time for what everyone loves to wait for. It's the quiz. And it's going to be a head-to-head this week. There's no kind of Billy no mates, just Charlie by himself. It's going to be Josh up against Charlie. And we'll start with the lineup. And you kind of mentioned it earlier on about that 6-pointer almost, the big relegation battle, which was Forest against Spurs. Forest came away 2-0 victors, and it almost basically puts Tottenham in this dire situation now where it's genuinely a certainty that they might go down. It's them and West Ham at this point, with Leeds and Forest hovering just above. I want you to tell me the lineup for Tottenham in 2022. It's the 9th of November. It's a 3-5-2. It's an Antonio Conte team. And I want you to give me the Spurs lineup against Forest. Forest also won that game 2-0 at the time. And it's November 2022. Can you give me the Spurs lineup? It's a 3-5-2, so it's 5 at the back.
Conte era. There's definitely 2 players that should be on here, because if they're not, I'm going to be hugely disappointed.
Yeah.
I'll get the Forest.
He played a lot, I think.
Wait, hold
I
on.
think you should at least get 5, I would say.
Did you say the Forest lineup that we need to get?
No, the Spurs lineup.
Spurs lineup, sorry, right. I did think you said Spurs.
Don't be doing that, Charlie, but you'll get 0.
Could have ended up really wrong with Eds.
To be fair, you did well last week, Charlie, when we was rushing it, and I think you got a high score of 9. I don't think you're going to get this week.
Yeah, I didn't do too bad.
What was the formation?
So the Forest, the formation was a 3-5-2. The reason I didn't give you the Forest lineup was because it was literally so kamikaze. You've got Wayne Hennessy in there. You've got Serge Aurier, Joe Worrell, Willy Bowley, Renan Lodi at left back, with Ryan Yates, Oral Mangala, and what's his name? Lewis O'Brien, random name. Jesse Lingard got a goal and assist. He's there. And then we've got Taiwo Awoniyi and, of all people, Sam Surridge up front. Sam Surridge got an assist. So it's a weird time. It was Renan Lodi and Lingard who scored, and Oral Mangala got a red card. But we'll give you another minute or so on the Spurs lineup. 2022.
Can't think of this.
We've got some names down.
Yeah, Spurs.
3 central midfielders, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to say I put like the fullbacks off wingers as.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Don't know if
Enough to pressure, boys.
Too early, might be.
Is that the game when Brennan Johnson clattered Richarlison? Is that another one?
I can't give that away if he played or not.
Yeah.
Either of them played. Right, we'll call it time. Time.
Okay.
I ain't got a midfielder, but
Get your name down now, Josh. Quickly write it down. If you think
go with it. Go.
Right, so I'll run you through the bench. Oh no, actually, what am I doing? You've got to tell me first. Pause, and then I'll give you answers. Josh, you can go first.
We've gone Hugo Lloris in goal. I imagine that was Peru. And as my fullbacks / wingers, I've gone Jed Spence and Perisic. My 3 centre halves are Eric Dyer, Ben Davies, and Sanchez.
Yeah.
I put one midfielder in that last second of Dele Alli because that's the only Spurs midfielder I can think of.
Dele Alli, right?
Yeah, and I think he went to Everton the season before. Now I think about it, and then Son and Kane up top.
Okay. Charlie, do you want to run through yours?
Yeah, so I have got, again, Hugo Lloris in goal. My 3 centre halves I had as Ben Davies, Davison Sanchez, and, Eric Dyer. My right wing back, I went with Emerson Royale.
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry, on left, I don't know. I can't remember which side. I've got Emerson Royale, and I've got Matt Doherty as the wing backs. My 3 centre mids, I've got as Oliver Skip, Sarr, which I think is maybe a bit too early, and this one's a bit too late, but I've gone with Christian Eriksen because I just couldn't think of any other Spurs centre mids. And then up front, Harry Kane.
Christian Eriksen was having a heart attack at that.
Yeah. And then up front, Harry Kane and Heung-min Son.
Okay. Charlie, you've got 5. Josh, you've got 4. And I did, if I'm honest, I'll set you up because it's not Hugo Lloris in there. So the bench is Bentancur, Brian Gill, Kulusevski, Richarlison, Jed Spence, Lloris, Emerson, Royal, Tanganga, and Sarr. And the lineup is Fraser Forster. It is Matt Doherty at right wing back. We've then got Davinson Sanchez, Eric Dyer, Clement Longley, and Ryan Sessegnon, the left wing back. We've then got Yves Bissouma, I thought one of you might get, Højbjerg, and it was Oliver Skipp. That's a good pick. And then it's Ivan Perisic up front. So you've worked that well there, Josh. And Harry Kane, obviously, was definitely in that team. I don't know where Son was, to be fair. Might have been doing military service or something. I'm not sure. So, yeah, that was the lineup. And we'll run into, obviously, the next question, which is Chelsea was sanctioned midweek for financial deception involving, obviously, undeclared payments to agents between 2011 and 2018. And it involved a number of kind of signings that were kind of to do with these agents. And it was specifically the 13 to 14 season. Can you tell me the most expensive transfer of the 13 to 14 season for Chelsea? Was it Matic, Schürrle, Willian, or Salah? So obviously, allegedly, it was these kind of undeclared agents that signed these kind of players this season. Can you tell me which one it was that was the most expensive? Matic, Schürrle, Willian, or Salah? You got an answer?
I've got an answer.
Yeah.
So. Got an answer, Josh?
Willian.
Okay. Well, you gone Willian, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, who are you going for, Charlie?
I've gone with Andre Schürrle.
It was Willian. We signed him from a Russian club. I can't pronounce their name. It's like Anzi something. But yeah, it was a Russian club we signed him from. And yeah, it was Willian. The next question is, Danny Welbeck scored 2 goals against Liverpool yesterday, and it made him the highest scoring Englishman this season. Which club in his career does he have the most goals for? Brighton, Man United, Arsenal, Watford. Which club has he scored the most goals for in his career? Brighton, Man United, Arsenal, or Watford? Danny Welbeck. And Charlie, whenever you're ready, you can go first, because obviously Josh went first last time.
Okay, I'm stuck between 2 clubs, but I'm going to go with Brighton.
Okay, sticking with where he is now, yeah. Josh, what are you going for?
I'm going to go Arsenal.
It is Brighton. He's got 48 goals, though, which I thought was quite low. But then I realised that only last season and this season did he get 10 plus goals in his career ever.
Yeah, he's done.
Question number 4. Yeah. So this time last year, obviously, Joe will remember fondly because it was a great night for him. Newcastle were crowned EFL Cup champions, beating Liverpool 2-1. How long ago, when they won that trophy, how long ago was it since their last trophy? 68 years, 70 years, 72 years, or 65 years? So obviously they won their first trophy in so many years. How many years was it when they won the EFL Cup last season?
Oh, for God's sake. Can I have what the answers are again? Sorry.
68, 70, 72, or 65?
Okay, I've got my answer.
Yeah, so
Josh can go first.
72, I think.
Charlie?
Oh, God's sake. 68.
It was 70. It was in between both of you.
It's a joke.
So, going into the last one, it's currently 6-5, which is quite a low score. It's all to play for. And the question is, we're going to Italy, actually. Thought we'd switch it up. Cesc Fabregas's Como are 4th after thumping Pisa 5-0 today. When was the last time they lost in Serie A? So it's the closest to, and I want you to tell me the number and the number of the day and the month.
Number of day.
When was the last time they lost a game in Serie A, Como, who are 4th? So, for example, I want you to say, you'd say it like the 12th of March. That's how I want you to say the answer.
Okay.
Yeah, go on, man.
Good old Cesc Fabregas. Have you got an answer yet?
I've got an answer.
You can go first, Charlie, this time.
I've gone with the 28th of December.
28th of December. Okay. Josh.
Really?
15th of February.
Josh absolutely smashes it because it was the 14th of February. It was literally 1 point. You know what? I'll have to give him 5 points for that, Charlie.
To be honest, I'm happy to lose by that. That's ridiculously close.
Yeah. December, I know they're good and Cesc Fabregas is working well, but no, it's not that long ago.
Yeah, I thought it was
that is the quiz. Yeah, it's unfortunate, Charlie, because you blew it on the last question and you lost miserably because I had to give him 5 points for being one off. That was a good last minute. That was a 90th minute screamer from Josh. And that is the end of the episode this week. Obviously, it was the EFL Cup special. Manchester City winning the EFL Cup under Pep Guardiola once again, 5th time that they've done that. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. Make sure that you obviously drop us a like on all the socials. We're on TikTok, Instagram. I think we're on Twitter as well. And it will be coming out on Monday this week. We're now doing the recordings from now on a Sunday. And thank you very much for listening.